When the climate is right, life will thrive. Very little intervention needed. This is true for all species, right? You cannot grow tomatoes in Alaska in the winter. You cannot because the climate is wrong. So the first thing, even if you want to grow something in your own backyard, the first question you'd ask, is the climate right for this? That's the universal truth. Similarly, there is an ecosystem inside of our bodies. And our body is like a universe to our microbiome.
Hello, Brave Table fam. Welcome to another episode of The Brave Table. I'm your host, Dr. Neeta, and I have a question for you. Have you just tried all of the supplements? Maybe you are so focused on your health, but you feel like something is off, something's not working, maybe it's not working for you. Are you feeling exhausted, tired, and you are like running out of answers? If you are, today's episode is for you. It's for the woman who's literally tried everything, all the food rules, the endless productivity hacks, and still feels like something is off. Now, you know that quiet nudge inside, the one that actually says something deeper is going on? Well, today we are going there with someone who is truly bridging that gap between Eastern and Western medicine, and she's bridging ancient healing with our modern chaos in the most powerful way. Now, she is none other than Nidhi Pandya, a NAMA-certified Ayurvedic doctor, international teacher, and creator of the Inner Climate Framework. Her newest book, Your Body Already Knows, because it already does, is a guide to reclaiming your body's rhythms, trusting your gut, literally, and healing from the inside out without subscribing to hustle culture or the wellness one-size-fits-all model. This conversation is literally filled with deep truth bombs, the difference between our ancient roots of Ayurveda and what we can expect with modern medicine, gentle rewiring, radical self-care, and the women's stages that we all have, but pertaining to Ayurveda and our doshas. So if you've ever felt like your body was actually trying to tell you something else, but the world taught you to override it, to push, to keep going, this episode is for you. Let's get into it with Nidhi Pandya. All right, Queen. Wow. This has been a long time coming. I'm so excited.
Thank you so much for having me, Neeta. I'm so excited to talk to you.
I know. The last time we saw each other was at Joe Dispenza.
Absolutely.
And here we are. So I want to start with your book, which is right behind you, because even the title cracked something open in me in terms of, for so many of us who are striving to do all of the things, with our hydration and our diets and our workouts and our movement and our meditation, your body already knows. It's so bold, it's beautiful, and it's honestly, I feel like it's a little rebellious, to a lot of what is being subscribed and told. But I think for those of us who've been taught to numb, override, or, we have so much information, I feel like there is this edge and pull to now doing more natural route. And of course, we come from the lineage of Ayurveda. So I'm so glad you're bringing it to the front lines. So can you take us back to where this truth of Ayurveda began in you?
Absolutely. So for me, I would say I was born into Ayurveda. Neeta, I always say that it was my first language. So I grew up in a large joint family where my grandfather was an Ayurvedic healer. And Ayurveda was passed on to us without the Ayurvedic disclaimers, which means that I never heard, oh, according to Ayurveda, this is how you should live. But what I did hear growing up was things like, hey, it's evening. Are you sure you want to eat yogurt right now? Because that's going to be harder to digest. Now, as a young girl, that gave me so many messages. It told me that yogurt, which was generously offered to me during lunch, is probably a food that is slightly heavy. I also learned that lunchtime, it's probably a better time to digest, so which means my digestion is better. And just through these simple cues, right? Or I want to give you another example that my mom would say that come back when come back from the playground once you see bats weaving through the sky. So which means that, of course, I didn't wear a watch back in those days, and I couldn't bother. But at the same time, you tuned in to these natural cycles. You understood at that young, tender age that there is a species on this planet that comes alive in the evening time. And it just naturally is a time for us to dim down. But also messages of bio-individuality, that each one of us is built different. Growing up in a family of 14 people
Wow.
and 7 children, I often heard things like, hey, it's summertime. Ruchi, you should be a little bit more careful. Make sure that you're drinking coconut water. So I'm getting a message that me and my sister Ruchi are doing the same exact things, but she has a different prescription almost. And that gave me a sense, oh yeah, she heats up. Her skin becomes red sooner. She burns quicker in the sun. Her temper becomes more hot, and everything in her body is hot. So here you learn all of this, and you learn it through immersion. So that was my first experience with Ayurveda.
Wow.
And I always say that I spend my entire life learning what makes people sick and what makes people tick. And this is at all levels. I luckily also grew up with several tools, from spiritual tools to more practical tools to ancient wisdom. And then I went and got a formal education in Ayurveda directly from the scriptures. So I studied from I've had a classical education in Ayurveda.
Wow.
And I want to segue this into my book, right, before we continue, is that when I went out there and I practiced Ayurveda, when I started practicing, I realized that it was just done very prescriptively out there in the world. It was very academic. It was just being practiced like current modern medicine, but just instead of writing prescriptions for medicine, you would just prescribe herbs. And maybe you do a little bit with nutrition and diet. And I said, this does not feel good because it's still setting up the people that I work with for dependency and despair. And they come back into the cycle without really knowing why this is working for them. And that's why I had to create a new paradigm shift in the world of Ayurveda as well, because I fundamentally believe that just like every other species on this planet, my joke is that deer doesn't wake up in the morning every day, setting up an alarm and say, oh my God, I have to graze again. And they're nocturnal mammals who don't get carried away with new research and start waking up at 5:30 a.m. to meditate. And nursing mammals will reject foods that they would otherwise devour.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they know that they're nursing, so they know how to reach out for galactic goals. They know what to eat. When animals are bruised, they know exactly what soil, what kind of dirt to roll their bodies in. And lastly, I've seen bears myself devour cabbage heads right before hibernation, so they could come back and have a bowel movement once they're out of hibernation. So that's the first food, that they put in before they hibernate. So if every other species that we consider less intelligent knows how they need to live, how come as human beings we need a prescription? So I found great hope in this. And then I would say it felt like a lifetime, but I spent a lot of years then trying to find a framework that would bring us back to our body's intelligence. And that is what my book is about.
Oh, your body knows. Already knows. Okay, so you open up the book by saying healing doesn't have to be hard. So that's so counter to how a lot of us, I think, in the West were raised, right? My father also comes from the Ayurvedic background. And, obviously our lineage, our ancestors from India, of course, kind of imbibed that. As you were sharing, the story with your grandfather telling you not to eat the yogurt at night, I was like, oh my gosh, my mother-in-law just told my daughter that. And I'm like, if that's the only thing she's eating as a 3.5-year-old, I'm like, she's going to have me. And I know I'm going to be talking to Nidhi. I think she's going to like
First thing
that.
I tell you, it's the first thing I tell you.
I mean, it's either that or just plain white rice and roti for my daughter. So we'll get into that. But why do you think we equate transformation with struggle?
And I think this is exactly, we're so disconnected from the truth that's inside of us, right? We've become this society that it's harder and harder each day for us to process what we experience through our foods, through our emotions, through all our interactions. And in the go, go, go culture, and electricity has honestly made it much worse for us because now we've extended our days. We've created such a long to-do list that we forget to pause. We forget to stop and smell the roses. We forget to create that stillness within us. And we don't need to do this actively.
Yeah.
But even if you have a system, a rhythm that your body can constantly go back to, it taps into its intelligence. It becomes, if you think of the times when any of us think of the times that we had our best and our greatest ideas, or we had epiphanies, or we could connect dots that we couldn't before, it's usually in a moment where we found stillness. In fact, I always say that Newton discovered gravity when he was chilling under a tree.
Yeah.
It was not in his science laboratories. And Archimedes discovered the Archimedes principle, and he ran out naked when he was in a bathtub. Now, imagine if we had those pauses several times a day. There is something within us, right, that rewires, that recalibrates, that repairs, and gives us access to what we already know. And I think today, because we're so far away from that, you can call it the sixth sense, you could call it your intuitive wisdom, you can call it what your subconscious knows. But we're so far away from that, and we are living in so much noise, and we're living so much in the future of what I need to do next and what
Yeah.
might not work out next, that we've forgotten to tap into what we already know. And that makes, right, anytime you work with, like, for example, I'm going to use an example, right? Nita, if you come into New York and you
Mhm.
probably look at the weather from Dubai and you say, hey, I might need a light jacket. So you already know, it's so intuitive. It doesn't feel like effort. You don't have to go and do like a search, Google search on, and these days chat GPT search on, how do I dress for New York if it's cold? Because you intuitively understand. Holding ourselves up against gravity is not an effort because we're connected to that gravity,
Mm.
right? So every time you're connected to something, every time your body has had an experience and knows the truth through experience, the subsequent action becomes effortless. And every time we know something through prescription or information, what is required subsequently feels like a struggle because it's not internalized. So we need to internalize our experiences. We need to draw more connections and logic. And right now we are so far away from that. And that's why part of my book offers an easy framework to start coming back to that wisdom and
So needed.
creating ease.
So needed because you talk about the inner climate method.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Because that's one of the big frameworks in the book. I think
Yes.
the book is laid out so beautifully and so easy for anyone, literally like an encyclopedia, but like a mini version.
I feel.
Where it's like you open up the book to whatever page and you're like, oh, okay, this is actually what I think my body needs right now. So you can be using it very intuitively as well. What does it actually mean to reset your internal environment? And how is that from, fixing symptoms?
Yeah. And so, I want to start with why is this idea of the inner climate so important
Yeah.
first, right? So, why does life, I always ask people, and why does life exist on our planet and our planet alone in the entire Milky Way as we know it? And the reason is that the climate was right, the environment was right, and we didn't have to do anything. We didn't have any scientific intervention. And from single cell organisms 4.5 billion years ago, we are full blown mammals with intellect, I mean, inventing stuff. So the climate was right. Life continued to evolve and thrive. In the last 200 years, we've messed up the climate. And now we're beginning to question life on our planet, right? We're beginning to feel threatened about life on our planet. So we know this, right? We know this universal principle. When the climate is right, life will thrive. Very little intervention needed. Now, this is true for all species, right? You cannot grow tomatoes in Alaska in the winter. You cannot because the climate is wrong. So the first thing, even if you want to grow something in your own backyard, the first question you'd ask, is the climate right for this? So that's the universal truth. Similarly, there is an ecosystem inside of our bodies. And our body is like a universe to our microbiome. There are these trillions of microorganisms that today scientists are discovering affect everything from your gut health to your nervous system to your hormones to your moods to, I mean, you just name it, your immune system, a big one, right? And how you assimilate nutrients. And they need, just like every other species on the planet, they need a certain environment to thrive. And when their life thrives, your life thrives. But what is that? What is that beyond the blood work that I see, or what the medical definition of homeostasis is? The truth is, it is an inner environment. It is a climate. And I want to just go a little bit into what that climate is. And can we do this together, Neeta?
Yes.
Can you take your palm, and anybody who's listening, take your palm and, cup it around your mouth
Okay.
and blow into it a few times. And tell me what that feels like.
It's warm air.
Warm air.
Yeah.
Was it dry? Was it moist?
Oh, I think it's moist.
Yeah. So it's warm and moist. Neeta, I know you're a mother and you probably nursed. What was your milk?
It was warm
And moist?
and moist.
Okay.
Yes.
What is our blood?
Warm and moist.
Warm and moist. What kind of people do you like? You like hot-tempered, cold people?
Warm.
Warm,
Warm.
right? And let's talk about all the Ayurvedic foods, right? Let's
Okay.
talk about all the Ayurvedic food. And you start with warming good fat,
Totally.
and then you add spice.
Yep.
Warm and moist.
Yep.
The world has gone crazy about fermentation.
Yes.
The two qualities that come into fermentation are warm and moist. You keep it in a warm place; it's aerobic. You'll see water, droplets, warm and moist. The balance where the sun and the moon, planet life exists here, warm and moist. Where where does vegetation grow the best in the planet?
Oh,
Warm and
and
moist.
moist.
Hot and humid, tropical Amazon rainforest, you'll get parasites. And too cold and dry, nothing grows there. Too hot and dry, cacti. I mean, people who are hot and dry, they become so sharp. So that is the truth.
Yeah.
That is the truth. That is the truth. So our body has a climate. And every single ancient traditional medicine system that I've tried to study is trying to come back to this climate. Unfortunately, it's not been articulated. I've looked at TCM, I've looked at Ayurveda. Everyone understands, all of these sciences understand what is imbalance, right? So in TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, they'll say, oh, it's a damp gut, it's a cold gut, it's a hot gut, hot and dry. But they haven't articulated that the actual place that you're trying to get into is warm and moist. Even in Ayurveda, they describe kapha dosha being cold and sluggish,
Yep.
vata being cold and dry, pitta being hot and humid. And it also says that when each one of these are exaggerated, you're in imbalance. But what is a place where all of these are in perfect balance? It is warm and moist.
Interesting.
So warm and moist is that central place that every single ancient medicine system has tried to bring the body back to. And global warming is not very different from inflammation because one of the basic principles is as outside, so inside, as above, so below, as is a macro, such as a macro. So they're interconnected as well. And inflammation is one of the biggest problems today, right? And we feel like people are go, go, go. They're very solar. They do. Everything is hot and inflamed in their bodies. And our goal, and through this book and all the other work I do, is how do you come back to that place of warm and moist in our breath, in our bodies, in our mind? I'm going to this is the last time, I'm going to say one more thing, even in our emotions, right? Anxiety. Okay, look, first give me anger. What do you think anger is?
Anger is hot.
Hot. Okay. Anxiety.
Ooh.
Dry.
Yeah.
Right? If you're anxious for many, many days, you'll see that your eyes are dry, your hair is dry, your throat is dry. Stress is hot and dry.
Okay.
Depression, withdrawal, it's so sluggish, it's slimy almost.
Slimy, cold, even
slimy,
everything.
cold. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But love, warm and moist. Gratitude, warm and moist. So every single practice is bringing us back to warm and moist. And once we start to identify that even within us, in our emotions, right? When you're triggered, for example, we're all hot and dry when you're triggered.
Yeah.
And some people have a freeze response. They don't have a fight or flight. They have a freeze response. And those who have a freeze response, for them, they get stuck completely cold and stagnant.
Yeah.
But there is no flow. But when you are in that right place, warm and moist, when you feel like perfectly in love or in gratitude or in compassion, or like a warm hug or like a fuzzy blanket or, a warm broth, these are all warm and moist. We thrive in, that's the state of flow.
We're thriving.
We're thriving in. So our job in healing, this is the way I do, is I look at people's symptoms, emotional and physical, and I see where have they gone off their climate? Are these, where do these fall? And then how do we start coming back?
It's so profound because I feel like we've had so many experts recently, I think about 6 or 7, who have written books on Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is having a moment, but I haven't heard it shared in this way that you just broke it down, which I think is so profound because it gives us something tangible to really understand for people that don't fully understand the doshas and their doshas and what we're actually trying to get to. And I think from a global, full external perspective back into our body as species, I think you've given us a really good tool for that. So thank you. And that's in that's in the first few chapters of the book.
That is part 1.
Yeah.
And, it's very tempting for people to kind of actually go to the later parts of the book.
Of course.
Because it feels like, oh, that's a little tip here. And we
Yes.
love tips and we love prescriptions.
Yes.
But I tell everybody, do part 1 first, sit on it, and then you want to go on. So this
Really?
is part 1.
Okay.
Part 1, chapter 1.
Okay. Because we need to really understand the inner circle.
Yes.
So you do, however, talk about 21 micro shifts in the book, these like tiny rituals, these tiny resets. What is one ritual you think that most women overlook because whether it's digestion, sleep, but it could be a game changer for mood?
So maybe not necessarily overlook, but if I have to say that you want to introduce the first game changer into your life, I mean, I have 2, so it's very hard to pick. But I'll still pick the one that I think is the most important.
Yeah.
Is remembering that we are diurnal mammals, which means that we function in the day. We don't have nighttime vision. And before electricity came, we didn't really have these late night dinners. So the one shift you want to make is, and I always give a little explanation. So pardon me, because I don't want to give just a prescription.
Sure.
So the change you would make accordingly would be that you want to eat a heavy lunch and a light dinner. But if you can make your dinner early and light, make it half of your lunch or even less. And if you're into your 40s and plus, make it less than half of your lunch.
Really?
And if you can do that,
Always eat a big dinner still.
oh, Neeta, it's a game changer. Like I tell you, it will, if it does not add 10 years to your life,
Gosh, so my in-laws are right again.
basically, I think moral of the story, Neeta,
Gosh.
your in-laws have been right all along.
Surely I see, okay, no shade to my father-in-law. Literally, he's there with us for the last month. And literally, you know how we're taught, like as a kid, you're only supposed to eat as much as the he'll eat literally like a roti, half a roti, and just like a sabji that's like this much. And I don't know if it's because I'm half Punjabi or what, but we just like, I'm like,
Oh,
all right, the
Neeta.
whole thing.
You said the word Punjabi. I deal with all my Punjabi friends, and they cannot understand that this logic exists. But I'll tell you, it'll add so much to your moods. It'll add so much to your sleep.
But
it'll
I
add so much
see
to your
that. I
hormones.
see that for my in-laws. They are in their late 60s, 70s. And they're fit. Fine, they're not lifting weights or anything like that. That's another story. But they are, they're sharp, they're fit, they're walking without anything, not taking any, medications, things like that. And I see all of they're Jain, and I see all the elders.
Oh, so I grew up Jain as well.
Yes.
And so that's how
And
that's how my parents are.
everyone's living to 100 or more.
Yeah, and we're all living our best life. So I grew up in the Jain tradition. So all of my family eats pretty much at 6:30, smaller dinners,
Smaller.
like super small dinners.
I'm like, where is I need more than just one sabji. I need like 4.
Do it for lunch. I tell everybody lunch.
So eat a smaller dinner.
And eat
Okay.
whatever you want
After
during
6
lunch.
or not after 7 p.m.
Yeah, I mean between 6 and 7. So there's
Okay.
no strict prescription like this, but you'll also realize that when you start eating a big lunch, and then there's also this day one ritual, which just magically transforms your relationship with food. So if you pair the day one micro shift with this, you'll suddenly realize that you've come to your optimum weight and you don't have a negative relationship with food anymore. 3 weeks of doing that. And then you continue to do it, and you'll realize that, oh my God, like I have so much more satiety. I do want to go into just a little bit of neuroscience because I
Sure.
think it's important.
Okay.
Even when you look at what's happening in our body neurochemically, your hunger hormone, ghrelin, which loves starchy foods, is at a good moderate pace in the afternoon. So it's not craving for super starchy foods. And why is that important? Because our insulin sensitivity is the highest between those hours of 10 and 2. Which means whatever you break down, your body would break down more effectively.
Sure.
Your gastrin, which is your digestive enzyme, gastrin is at its peak. So gastrin is at its peak. Your body is ready to break down sugar. Your hunger hormone is ready to have a nice big meal without giving you that sugar spike. Now look at all of this in the evening. We're kind of diabetic in the evening. Our insulin resistance is the highest, all of us.
And then if people want their ice
Yes.
cream or cakes at 9 p.m.
And if you've not eaten a big lunch, then your ghrelin is off the roof. And ghrelin loves starchy, cheesy, slimy foods. So your ghrelin is off the roof. Your body cannot break it down. Your gastrin is at its lowest level. You're setting yourself up over a period of time for disaster.
Okay, so then let's just talk about some brave conversations here. We're all about in this age of more protein deficiency.
Yeah.
What does your book say about this whole protein movement? As somebody that's Jain, as somebody that is an Ayurvedic doctor.
Absolutely. We're on the brave table, so I'm going to be brave because I'll be honest with you. So I do talk about protein in my book. And my publisher initially was a little bit nervous, my editor and publisher, but they were like, you know what, Nidhi, this makes sense. We're gonna go with it. So I will tell you, right? I mean, I love the West, and I'm so cynical and cynical of it as well, right? Because we'll do this new research and we'll get super excited about it. So there was a time when we were prescribing heroin for babies for their toothache. They were doing cocaine for babies as well. The sugar was being prescribed for a slimmer waist, and tapeworms were consumed and marketed so that you could eat less and keep your appetite low. So people were eating tapeworms, you were selling. And
I didn't know that.
And plastic was being marketed as a really great material, So this has all happened, right? But just even in the last 20 years, I've seen us going through so many revolutions. Like suddenly drinking water was the best thing you could do for yourself. People have moved away from that, by the way,
I know
because people have realized that it's really heavy on the body.
that
So
you could die.
yeah, basically. So drinking water, whether it's becoming vegan
I
suddenly,
mean, the 75 hard is all about drinking like 10 gallons of water or something.
and
It's insane.
and the got milk campaign, and now milk has become our enemy, and then there was water, and now water is going to become our enemy, and then intermittent fasting, and now that's become our enemy, and then ice baths, which is almost on its way to becoming our enemy.
Especially for women.
Yeah, yeah, which is what I always said, and that's another conversation altogether. But at the same time, we're doing the same thing with protein. And one of the reasons why America highlighted this protein diet is because it was very protein deficient. For the first half of our lives here, if you're growing up here in the conventional American diet, you're just consuming processed junk food high in sugar and starch.
Yeah.
And then come 20s when, late teens and 20s when women start experiencing hormonal difficulties and, parents look into wellness and nutrition and parents are getting sick at the same time with chronic disease. People are questioning why is this happening and how do I continue to build good tissue in my system? And then they discovered maybe it's protein deficient, right? And I'll agree we need protein and it's very important, but we need to eat moderate amount of proteins throughout our lives, a little more in certain phases, but protein is very hard to break down. If it is a building block in the body, I want everyone to understand that even the foods, lentils, cheeses, whatever it is that you're eating, they're not easy to break down.
Right.
I mean, just look even the cooking of lentils, it requires soaking, some
need to
special
pre-soak it.
cooking, all of that. But if you go back to traditional diets and you see how they ate their protein, whether it was fermented miso, fermented tofu, whether it was lentil soups, if you go to all of the Middle Eastern region.
You have a lentil soup first.
Yes.
That's what you eat.
So you eat protein. If you eat protein in that manner, a whole protein, and protein always is supported with something that's warm and moist because, I mean, that's really what metabolism is. That's our inner climate.
Warm and moist again.
Yeah. So like everything is,
Yes.
everything gets supported. You identify the properties and you see how much warm and moist this needs. So the heavier it is to break down, the more metabolic help it needs. So soaking your lentils, for example, but you saw how they were cooked with so much moisture, so much water.
Sure.
Not lentil pastas. And how spiced. Anywhere in the world whether they ate chili, black bean chili, or they ate lentil soups,
It aided in digestion.
or they ate dals, it was always with spices, which helps to break down
Wow.
the protein. It also helps to neutralize the free radicals that emerge as a process of cooking as well as digestion inside the body.
Mhm.
Spices are the best antioxidants that are out there. So everywhere proteins were eaten like this. And in other parts of the world, they were fermented. But even if you look at the Indian diet, right? You look at South India when they eat a lot of idli and dosa, which has protein, lentils,
Sure.
always fermented.
Yeah.
Slight fermentation, again, bringing the warm and moist. So if we start to eat protein like the way our ancestors did and in moderate amounts every day, a little more in the first half of the day when your digestion as diurnal mammals is still more forgiving, you want to eat it in the first half of the day.
And you're actually fasting then.
You're
actually fasting because if you're saying to eat a lighter dinner, then you're fasting for overnight.
Yes. And Neeta, we call it fasting. That's true. But the truth is that's how our ancestors ate.
Yeah.
Our species has been around for around 300,000 years. We've only been eating at night. We've only been not fasting for the last, to be realistic, since the 1930s.
That's true. You didn't eat at night.
You
Nobody
didn't
was
eat at night.
hunting. Nobody was hunting at night. You'd get eaten.
Yeah, and then also you're not going to sit and light a zillion lanterns and work and keep oiling your lamps and cook and eat late night large dinners. That's why there was eating your supper, eat your soup, stews, all of that, right? Kept in like little stone containers
It's
and
very
pots.
true. And even when you go to an Ayurvedic retreat, all of the Ayurvedic retreats I've been to, they're not giving you dinner at night. They're not.
Nobody's giving you dinner.
Nobody's giving. They're giving like it's like khichdi at 5 p.m. and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. So whether it's khichdi, whether it's rice congee in certain cultures, whether it's a rice broth, whether it's just a soup or
It's a
stew,
soup or stew.
yeah, whatever it is, right? Bone broth, whatever it is that people pick for themselves. But it is that light. And I tell people, like, listen, you don't want to deprive yourself at
Yeah.
night, right? So you want to fantasize. Like, my basic mantra is don't deprive, fantasize.
Okay.
Because when you deprive, you increase your cortisol. Your body feels stressed out.
Mm,
And cortisol is your body's fake hunger signal because
wow.
cortisol is linked to your hunger hormone ghrelin. So people start to eat
The
mistaking
emotional
that
eating.
emotional eating because that's just what cortisol does.
Sure.
Neurochemically, that's what it does, biochemically. So, but if you fantasize, Now your body is actually preparing. You say, I'm going to eat this big piece of chocolate cake, not tonight, but tomorrow for lunch.
Mm.
And then you fantasize about it. You think about how you're going to sit down, how you're going to bite into that decadent cake. And when you do that,
Mhm.
your body feels very safe and it starts preparing to digest that cake as well.
Okay, so it's starting, you're visualizing it.
You're visualizing it.
I love that. Okay, so and now I want to get into this is all beautiful, by the way. I want to get into, I just saw your recent Instagram post about women's stages. And there are 3 stages that correlate to every woman in each season of her life
Mm-hmm.
and how it relates back to Ayurveda and the doshas. Can you go through that?
Yeah. So the first part of our lives, right, from babies to about adolescence, pre-adolescence, we're in the building phase. For those who love Ayurveda, it's the kapha phase of life, right? Because you see that the body has so much we're like fluid beings. The baby just drinks milk at its birth, and just on that fluid milk, you grow 3 times, 4 times your size by the time you're 6 months old, right? So your body is fluid. It's building, 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 building. You're in the kapha phase of life. And then, the elements, if people who like elements, earth and water are present. And your cytoplasm, which is, cellular material, the basic bulk of your cell, is doing its best job. When we turn around 12, 13, 14, now heat begins to build in. So that was the springtime. Everything is getting set. Now it's
Yeah.
almost summer. And the heat begins to set in terms of hot hormones. And suddenly teenagers have their own opinions. They want to create in the world. Your most creative time, right? Your most transformative time. I always say, unless it's warm, how can it transform? So it's that warm time where it's like
Sure.
you're ready to do your greatest work on this planet for what you were born through this entire phase. But we start off in this warm and humid phase, warm and moist phase. You start off as an oil lamp. So think of like a lamp which is full of oil and a flame, and that's like a young adolescent's face. It's like the skin is shiny and there's oil, there's suppleness, there's heat in their mind, there's fire in their heart and their belly, and it's just beautiful face. And then throughout our entire period of our youth, which is from 13 all the way to your menopause,
Sure.
it's a process of using your fuel out. And if you burn very hard and you burn very strong, you burn out very quickly.
Yeah.
If so it's that I see drying is dying. So you're really that entire is like, how do you preserve your fuel and keep burning at that slow, consistent pace
We don't want to dry out.
throughout? We don't want to dry out, right?
Okay. Moisturize.
And it's just not only physical moisturizing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in your breath. You can do it in all levels of your body, right? Because, so I mean, that's also what the book talks about. That's also what I teach is like, how do you preserve that fuel? How do you replenish your fuel beyond just like physical moisturizing?
Sure.
And fats. There's many, many other ways. And then as we hit our menopausal years, right, in our 40s, naturally, it's a natural process of aging that the fuel starts to get depleted. And we experience that dryness, right? And if Neeta, you probably you've worked with an oil lamp before. When it's losing its last bit of oil, the flame starts to flicker very strong.
Yeah.
It's very aggressive. And that's what women feel in their 40s, hot and dry inside their bodies. Their moods are more hot and dry. They're a little bit more snappy. They're feeling uneasy. Their skin is hot and dry, like the skin feels dry.
Yeah.
The vaginal cavity is all dried up. The hair becomes dry. So we start in the drying phase and then hot flashes. And then you hit menopause and that flame kind of goes off. And then there's a period of excessive dryness.
Yeah.
And then we have the opportunity to settle into that because our last phase, right? If the first phase was all water and building and earth, and the second phase was like fire,
Yeah.
the third phase is wind. And you can support yourself even through those ages. And I tell women that in your 40s, don't think you're aging. Because if you start thinking that you're aging in your 40s, you'll spend half of your life aging.
Yeah.
And you don't, that's not how you want to spend.
Of course.
But if you learn to navigate through this phase in a loving manner, you come out on the other side much wiser, much sweeter, and you know how to keep replenishing yourself even in the driest times of your life.
Wow. Wow. And, your book is out. What is the mission of your book? What do you want people to take away, or like the top 2 or 3 things that you want people to take away from this book and this mission that you are now on?
So absolutely. I think what I really want people to take away is that you have the power, that even though even in today's episode, we talked about some things which may sound prescriptive. The truth is we all know how to live. We're supposed to know. Our ancestors did. We have the wisdom, and it is not as complicated. Health is not supposed to be the fear of disease. It's supposed to be the freedom that comes from being well inside. And my goal is for people to bring back that kind, loving approach to themselves, meet themselves where they're at, and day by day by day, keep reconnecting with their wisdom. I always say this. The goal of my book was not for the reader to connect with my intelligence. I could have written books and I could have used all Sanskrit jargon and been like, oh, I'm so intelligent.
Yeah.
But the goal is for the reader to reconnect with their wisdom.
You're really breaking it down for everyone.
That is the goal, that,
Yeah.
it's not like to create this movement of loving health and wellness.
So where can we get the book? Before we get into our flash round, our spill the chai round, which we've got chai here. So where can we get the book? Where can we follow you and learn all of the tips you've given? I just love following your content on Instagram. I feel like you've gone viral many times already because of just the amount of wise wisdom and the practicality in which you teach other people how you can do the day-to-day Ayurveda in your home. And I know you're also a mom of two as well.
That is correct. That is correct. Thank you so much, Neeta. So where can people find me? People can find me. People can find the book anywhere. Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, wherever you are in the world. Hopefully Amazon there is selling it. But otherwise, Penguin Random House, their website, in certain
Amazing.
countries. So
Congrats on that.
the Penguin Random House website will have the book in most countries. So that is where you can find my book. You can find me online on my Instagram. That's the only social media channel that I could convince myself to get on. My handle is my_Ayurvedic_life. And also my website, which is nidhipandya.com. So that's my first name, last name, .com.
Okay. You ready for spill the chai round?
Let's do it.
You have your chai, right? Or you had it? You did have it?
Listen, the chai was too yummy, but I have this.
So you did.
So
okay. What's the note that you're tasting in this chai?
Cinnamon, ginger.
Yeah. I feel like cardamom too.
Cardamom too. Actually, it's a very strong cardamom.
Yeah, cardamom. Yep. Cardamom too.
Yeah. You are right. I'm
By the way, this was vegan. This was done. Yeah, this is oat milk.
Oh, wow.
I mean, not that we're supposed to be drinking oat.
Very well then. No, listen, you were supposed to listen. Can I just say one thing, please, everyone?
Yes.
You can do whatever. Like, I feel like we need to stop saying we're supposed to, we shouldn't. I think it's just very loving. The book also teaches you through awe and wonder. Don't learn through information, learn through wisdom. Information is very prescriptive, but just like make connections and get curious and let your body internalize and make the decisions for you. Don't say no to things. Let things say no to you. And that will happen when you really make those deep connections with the universe.
That's so good. That's so good. Thank you for that. Yeah. Okay, you ready?
Yep, let's do it.
What's one Ayurvedic ritual that you cannot live without, especially you have 2 teenage girls, when life gets hectic?
Oiling my body.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Even your hair?
Even if it's 3. So I oil my hair maybe twice a week, once a week or twice a week.
Twice a week? You do that?
Yeah. Like at night. And like I'll keep it on from afternoon all the way to night. I'll sleep with it and I'll wash it in the morning.
Okay.
And I can do that because I've had a lifetime of my body getting used to it. But otherwise, oiling my body, even if it's just for 5 minutes, that is something that I will not give up no matter what happens.
What's the oil that you use?
Depends, but I would say sesame oil many days, but I also use other body. Like I have this organic India rose geranium oil, which I love. And I use that these days I've been using that a little bit more.
Okay. All right. Intuition, gut instinct. How can we develop that more?
It would stay in the warm and moist zone every time you notice that you're getting triggered, hot and dry. And I give tools as well. And advice, find your tools to how do you start regulating. But I also say that the more you tune into your exhales, become present. Forget my first piece of advice, actually, just by tuning in more to your exhales. And every time you exhale, your body settles back into its repair mode. And in that, truth comes alive. So just keep doing longer exhales, even if you're in conversation. When your mind is racing, come back and do a longer nasal exhale.
Oh. Favorite case study of a person you helped with Ayurveda?
Was this young boy from Lebanon. I mean, he's from the US, but of Lebanese heritage. And he was 9 years old. And he came with Crohn's disease. His mom had just heard of Ayurveda. She didn't really even know what it was. She had 5 children. And he was being prescribed. He had a fever for 3 months. and he was being given prescriptive medicine for the rest of his lives. He had to take, these like really strong drugs. And the mother just felt it was intuitively wrong. And I loved working with them because they were so open, curious. And she took a chance against her husband and the rest of her family. And she said, I will do this. And he had a fever that had not broken for 3 months, but instantly, within 2 weeks, no fever. It's been maybe 6, 7 years. He's grown, he's strong, and an episode has never recurred again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. What are you braving?
What am I braving, if I have to be very honest, is living away from my large joint family in India. Like, if there is something that I feel like,
Yes.
that's what I'm braving.
Congrats. Congratulations on that. One word that describes this season.
This season in my life, or the season outside?
This season of life.
Unfolding.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Nidhi, thank you for your warmth, your calm, your softness, your reminders for us that our body already knows. And I know that this book is going to shed so much light. It already has been creating some big waves. The way you teach, the way you share, I think is just so palpable to who you are as a teacher. So thank you for sharing on the Brave Table.
Thank you so much for having me, Neeta. And I'm so glad we connected.
I know. All right, you guys, welcome back to the other side. All right. Whatever you do, go ahead and follow Nidhi right now. She's at my_Ayurvedic_life. Now, if you are watching this on YouTube, go ahead and think of just one moment of your life where maybe you were brought to a place of healing. Know that your body is always there for you. And maybe you had some epiphanies in this episode. Go ahead and share it with us below. Like this, subscribe if you are watching this, and share this with a family member, a loved one. Maybe you want to bring Nidhi's book into your book club, into perhaps maybe a group of the 2 or the 3 of you, your soul support posse. You know, it always helps to learn and grow with other people. Thank you so much for tuning in. Go ahead and share this in the interwebs at Instagram, The Brave Table, or at Neeta Bhushan. And I will see you next time. You know I've got so much more in store for you. So if you are really ready to dive in and keep owning your emotions like the boss that you are, click right here. Go ahead, don't be shy. I'll see you in the next one. Keep shining.